Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar. Um, we have an exciting session for you today. So we're going to cover from delivery to evaluation with TAO Community Edition in practice. We'll have a hands-on session. Today, you're going to hear from our co-founder and open source ambassador, Patrick Pilchart, and our product manager, Dragos Ivan. So before we get started, just a few quick items. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop those directly into the chat or into the Q&A, and we can take those after the webinar and as they come through. So we're envisioning this as a practical session. So please feel free to ask any and all questions that come up. And we will also follow up with the recording after the webinar, and any additional questions that we're not able to cover, we will follow up with as well. So without further ado, I'm pleased to turn the presentation over to Patrick and Dragos to get started.
All right, so thank you very much, Samantha. So it's a real pleasure to have this new webinar with the community. And during the first webinar, we have shown to you a little bit how to install the community edition of TAO, which we released during January. And we were wondering about the topics for this second webinar. And we thought that maybe we could highlight a little bit some of the key new features of this community edition, especially compared to the previous open source version, right? The so-called TAO 3.5 version of TAO, since the technology has evolved a lot, and we have revisited a lot some of the functionality there. And so today we thought that it could be useful to show to you in particular two big functionality, namely the proctoring capability. So this functionality which allows a teacher or some invigilator to basically review a little bit what's going on while test takers are taking the test, but also to take some actions with regards to the session of test taking, such as granting maybe some extra time for some test takers, maybe to make a note, right, about the session that maybe this test taker here, there was some suspicion of cheating or this kind of thing. So the proctoring capability will be demonstrated to you today. And the other big functionality, which was not available in TAO 3.5 before, it's completely new, is basically the service called TAO Grader, which allows basically teachers or evaluators to review any open-ended responses to some questions. So typically an essay written by test takers, or maybe an audio recording made by a test taker for language proficiency test. So TAO Grader allows basically to grade this kind of open-ended responses, which cannot be evaluated automatically. So those are the two key functionality we wanted to present to you today. And so we will, I mean, it will be, this webinar will be split into two parts. So first the proctoring, and then the grading part, which will be introduced to you by Dragos, who is a very experienced product manager by OAT for many years now, and who knows all the details about that. And then we will have a 10 minutes Q&A questions at the end. And I would like to open the floor for any questions, but also any comments or feedbacks you have about the community edition. If you have any suggestion about what could be the potential topics you would like us to cover for the next webinars, I would be happy to listen about your recommendations on that. So we will open the floor at the end of this webinar. So now I'm going to share my screen, hopefully, and I would like now to show to you the proctoring capability. So for this functionality, it's always a bit challenging to demonstrate this capability, because it's a kind of role play. So imagine you are in a, maybe for K-12, or you're in a school, you're in a classroom, and test takers, students, pupils are taking now the test. So you may expect from the teacher there to invigilate a little bit the session, right? To monitor what's going on for different purposes, right? Maybe it could be for formative reasons to detect that one test taker is a bit blocked, right, during the test. Or it could be also for sometimes in other context for more higher stakes tests, like exams or certification tests, maybe to make some intervention on the test sessions to declare that there is some doubts about how the test session is going on. So for this, it's a role play. So I'm going to play both roles. So here, maybe on the left side, I will act as a test taker. So my test taker is called here for this demo, it's called a CE webinar. So it's really a pupil, a test taker. And on the right side, I'm going to connect as an administrator first, because I would like to show to you how to declare one new session, which is meant to be proctor, which is meant to be subject to authorization to start, etc. So I will select a few options there to show to you how this works. So if I log in as an administrator, so on the right side, so if you focus now, I'm just going to accept the cookies. And for the sake of this demonstration, I'm using now a version that is a bit evolved compared to the community edition we released in January. So this version is basically our SaaS version, which includes some beta functionality as well, which is not yet available into the community edition. But everything I will present here during this webinar is available from the community edition as we have released it in January. It's just that we use this version to test some of the new functionality. So for the proctoring, I'm going to declare a new session. So session is basically this artifact which allows someone to declare that we expect to have this test taken by this group or this another group at that time during the year, and under those circumstances, right? With a few options there. And here, obviously, I want to select some circumstances, which is basically that I expect the authorization, for example, to be allowed. So I'm going to create a new session, and I'm going to call it, I have so many data into this instance, and I'm going to give it a nice name. So webinar demo 2, right? Because I know I have a session called webinar demo 1. So today I'm a bit lazy. I'm not going to fill all the optional details. So as you may know, we can also allow the sessions to be taken on a specific date. But here I'm just going to say that the session can be taken anytime. All right, I'm going to select the delivery, right? So which test we want to be taken by test taker. And here I have basically previously defined a new test. It's just a demo test here that is called webinar test. And you can see a bunch of options here, but the only option I would like here to select, and which is interesting for the sake of presenting proctoring, is called here under the security options. It's require authorization to start. So I'm going to select this option, and here the use case, I think in K-12 for ministries of education for monitoring, maybe it's not really needed, this option, but for certification, it's obviously quite important. We have had a lot of experiences with users where they had a process where they had to check the identity of the test taker. So basically, is the person sitting in front of the computer the right person expected to take the test, or is it a friend of him, right, who is knowledgeable on this subject matter? So sometimes we have users having this kind of process in-house to check the identity of the user, and that's why we select this option, and you will see the effect of that in terms of making sure that we went through this background check correctly prior to taking the test. So this session is declared. Oh, I forgot some option here. I think I forgot to select the group. So I'm going to assign a group. I need to tell which group can take this test. And here I've created this group, CE Webinar Group March 2026. It's a small group with only 3 test takers. And now I can create the session. All right, so the session is created. And now as a test taker, I'm going to on the left, right? So I'm going to move, I'm sorry, I'm a bit handling Windows here, but I need to adapt sometimes the size. So here on the left, I'm a test taker, right? I'm willing to take the test now. I'm supposed to take the test now. So I'm starting this test. And you can see indeed, I have one session pending for me, the session I've just created called Webinar Demo 2. If I start this test, actually I cannot, right? Because of this authorization option I've just checked as an administrator there in the back office. So this screen will be pending forever until a proctor starts to authorize the test. So now as a proctor, and I will show you later on how to declare a new proctor. For the time being, I will stick to the admin role here, but I would like to show you now some of the capabilities in terms of product. So now so here as an admin on the right side, I'm browsing all the sessions, and you can see we have many sessions on this instance, also testing data because I have been also practicing here a little bit. But you can see here that we have the session we have just created. And what I can do from here is that I can start to enter the session. And we can see that we have 3 test takers. We have myself, so here on the left, waiting a little bit for the authorization. And we have Dragos, the other speaker from today, who kindly also started the test in order to highlight a little bit more the functionality. So this is the session screen, the monitoring screen, and here we can basically monitor live. So imagine you are a teacher and you want to see what's going on, right, during this test session. Maybe you want to see if test takers are blocked, if pupils are blocked on the test. And because you have checked this option of authorization required, we have here this tab that shows 2 awaiting authorizations. So myself on the left side of the screen, and Dragos remotely also taking the test at the same time. So I'm going to authorize myself to take the test, and please have a look on the left side of my screen. And you can see that it changed a little bit. The test is ready, and I'm also going to authorize Dragos remotely to take this test. So now as a test taker, if I come back now as a test taker, I can start the test. All right, so typical test as usual, right? So I'm going to respond to a few questions. Maybe first one, second one as a test taker. I'm taking my test normally, and just going to skip this item for now, and I'm moving to the 4th item. So now, as a proctor or a teacher in the room, and obviously you can be remote, right? You can do the proctoring outside the room. It depends a little bit on the context. But what is interesting is that you can see the status, right, of the test taking for this session. So all the test takers expected to take this test are showing up here. Because of the demo here, it's only me and Dragos taking this test now. But the interesting information is that you can see first where we are in the test, right? So we both are on the 4th item out of 17. And Dragos is now visiting the 10th item. So I know it is on this 10th item. We also have another interesting information, that is the completion. It's a bit different from the position because you can not, you have the option not to respond to items, right? So maybe it's difficult. So maybe you move on through the test and you don't respond, right? So that's why the completion may be lower. If no, and you can see it here as a test taker, I didn't respond to item 3. So if I now go back to item 3 and provide some just random response here and move on, right, you will see that my status just moved now from 12% to 18%. We can also see that Dragos is doing a better job than me with already now a 24% completion rate. So this monitoring allows basically to see a little bit for potential issues, right? I mean, to detect maybe one test taker who will be blocked during the test for any reason, or who will stay on the same item forever. So that's one of the capability of the proctoring. And then we can also intervene. We can do things, right? Even remotely, even. So if you are in the same room connected on your computer or remotely, you can do the same thing. So first of all, you can, for example, extend the time. As you can see here, this test is timed to 42 minutes. So it's just a demo test, right? So we granted 42 minutes, but let's assume that I have some issues to handle the mouse because recently I've had a surgery, right? I mean, there are many scenarios like this where basically you need a bit more time. It's fair because obviously it takes a bit more time under those conditions to handle the test. So, and the proctor agrees, right? The teacher agrees. He says, yeah, it's fair. You deserve to have, I don't know, 5 more minutes to this test, right? So you can do that remotely, right? So instead of 41 minutes left, basically I want to extend the time for you, and I'm going to give you 5 more minutes. Let's say test takers, I would say illness, I would say just random example, right? Recent surgery. All right, so you can, and then you extend the time and look at the screen on the left for the test taker, right? So the test taker, what you will see on the screen is the following, is that you see it gets a notification on his screen. So myself as an admin, I get it, right? But the test taker also knows that he got 5 minutes extra for this test. And you can see also that, you know, the part one of the test basically got 5 more minutes there, right? So it's kind of, sometimes it's used as an accommodation, right? For like an accessibility tool as well, granted to test takers. So this is one of the capability. I can see that Dragos is progressing through the test. Now, what else can we do, right? In terms of proctoring, remote proctoring. So you can also decide, let's assume that the test taker needs to go to the bathroom, right? I mean, it depends a little bit on the context use case. Sometimes you do not allow, right, to really leave the room, etc. But sometimes you allow for it. So let's say test taker needs to go to the bathroom, but there is a timer. So what does it mean, right? I mean, okay, you will lose 5 minutes to go to the bathroom. So what you do, you could extend time as well, right? But there is another possibility also that you know, takes into account the fact that you don't really know how much time it will require to go to the bathroom. So here for myself as a test taker, right on the left, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to pause the test for Patrick as test taker. And the effect of that will be that all the timers will be paused as well, right? So, and I'm going to click this button now. I'm going to say, yeah, test taker. Um, I'm going to say here, other, let's say bathroom, right? So I pause the test and look at on the left side, right, the perspective from the test taker on his own computer. He will basically get this kind of screen. So the test has been paused and all the timer have been paused. So now he can basically go to the bathroom. All right. So the test taker comes back from the bathroom, click OK. And then obviously he needs the proctor to authorize him in again, right? He cannot just start right away. Sometimes there is some policy there being applied. So we need to basically resume it. And you can see here in the tab, you can see in progress. So Dragos is still going through the test. And there is one test post that's mine, right, with 5 minutes extra time. What I have to do as a teacher here, as a proctor, is simply to resume it. So just click this play button. And then for the test taker, you can see here, now I can basically resume the test. Right, so can go through the test a little bit. extended text interaction. So just random context here. And now what else can we do, right? So let's assume now that you are the teacher and you have a doubt, right? You have a doubt that maybe this test taker is cheating, right? I mean, he has been watching strangely, right, to the neighbor or this kind of things, but you have doubts, right? So you don't know, you don't want to interrupt the test taking for these reasons, but you have doubts about his behavior. You can do that as well, right? You can do a report, and here, basically, you can say test taker behavior, let's say suspicious cheating, which can be interesting in terms of data analysis. And obviously, if I do that, so there is the time stamp associated to the event, to the report here. And obviously, the test taker won't be informed of that. So if I click report here, you can see that the screen of the test taker didn't move for that reason at all, because obviously it's part of the data analysis there, right? So test taker can go on with the test. So what else can we do in terms of proctoring? You can also decide to, obviously you can remove the additional time, which I granted here, so the 5 minutes, I can decide to remove it. You can also decide to reset the test. So it's more edge case, right? I mean, it's not often, but we have had that scenario by different users. So sometimes you need to reset the test. It could be for scenario where, for example, the test taker didn't understand the instructions, right? Or started to respond to the test for countries where there are multiple language, started to respond to the test in another language than the one expected. So he has to reset it. And let's assume that the proctor, the invigilator, or the teacher accepts to reset it. And if I do that, I can do it now. If I do this, what I'm going to say here, let's say wrong misunderstanding of the instruction, right? So misunderstanding of the instruction. And then for the test taker, then he has to restart the test. I mean, we keep all the data from the previous session, but he has to restart the test from the very beginning, right? So if I reset now, you can see the screen of the test taker, live being updated. You need to restart the test now from the very beginning. And then he's back to item number one, right? Question number one. And then he has to go through the test again, right? So, and then I would like also to show you the data, but maybe I didn't show you everything. So there is also the possibility to terminate. So if you terminate the test, I won't do it here because I want to have the all the data here. But so if you terminate the test, basically the test taker cannot take the test anymore. It's typically for the scenario where he really cheated, right? Where it's obvious and where you don't want to allow this test taker to continue with the test, or because of other scenario that the test taker had to leave the room for some reason and anyway cannot pursue the test. So in this scenario, you may want to terminate the test so everything is submitted for him. Right. So this is the proctoring capability. It's used by a lot of our users nowadays, and you can see that you have also different causes, and there are some causes associated to that. And now I would like to show to you a little bit more about the data we capture for this kind of proctoring capability. It's a tool also which can be used to monitor, right? I mean, maybe not to interfere with the session, but to monitor and see the progress. As I can see here now, Dragos reached item 15 out of 17. And so I can detect that maybe Dragos is blocked on this specific item, and I can approach him to say, hey, do you need any help, or were the instructions not clear on this particular question? So that there was also this use case for this kind of functionality. So data. So in TAO Community Edition, you have access to the API of TAO Insights. So you have access to all the data, and all this data from proctoring is also captured. Now, for this demo, I was wondering how I would show to you what data we capture, right? And it's a bit challenging to show API calls during a demo. So here I will basically use a tool which we have, but it's still in beta stage, and it's not yet available in the community edition. It's the Data Explorer. It's basically just it's a simple user interface on top of the. So it's not yet. So this one is not yet available in the January release, huh? To be clear, but it's just a user interface on top of the API, which is existing in Community Edition. So through the API, any programmer can fetch all the data. They're the very same data, but this UI allows me to show you the data we capture. And if we want to see, for example, the information about the proctoring, because typically in case of cheating, etc., you need to issue some sort of audit log related to this cheating, especially if it is high stakes, if it means something for the test taker. So you need to issue this kind of log. So here I can show to you basically the logs. I'm just here saying to this UI that, okay, I'm interested into the API proctoring logs, right? I need to filter, I need to say, but which logs, right? Which logs I'm interested into. So I'm just going to say, I want the logs for a specific test taker, right? So the test taker I've been using for this demo was CE webinar 3, right? And now I can say also what data I would like. So about this test taker, having taken the test right now, I want the logs, but then I'm particularly interested into knowing if he got extra time, if he got maybe what is his IP, maybe the reason message, right? So like things like he went to the bathroom, etc. Um, I think that's it, right? So maybe I can select that and then I can generate. So this is making a call to the API of TAO Insights. And then you can see here that then suddenly you have all the data about what happened. And obviously this test taker has taken multiple tests, but you can see that there is authorization. So he was authorized to take the test at that specific time. And maybe if I go to the last page, I will have the last test we just did today, right? So we are the 26th of March. And you can see that the proctor has reset the test on that specific time. You can see also that here there was a suspicion of cheating, the bathroom. So basically all the data, recent surgery, and the fact he was granted 5 extra minutes for because of this surgery. All of that is tracked and available through the TAO Insights API. This user interface in particular is not available in TAO Community Edition from January, but all the data is available from the API. And so this is about the data. So all the data is tracked, is available in the data store. And the other thing I wanted to mention to you, so because so I've shown to you how to proctor, right? And I've been connected as an administrator. But normally you can also declare new proctors, right? In charge of proctoring a specific group like teachers, but obviously they are not administrators. They are not meant to see all the data. They are not meant to see results, or they are just meant to invigilate a little bit the session. So now I'm, in the back office, I'm looking at the groups view, and we can see that we have the group. So the group where those 3 test takers, so Dragos, myself, and Samantha belong to. And you can see, this was the name of the group, TAO CE Webinar Group March 2026. And you can see users, so we can see, okay, the 3 test takers, there was 1 proctor associated to that. But the way yeah, okay. So I was looking for the option. So the way to declare a new proctor, so someone responsible to monitor all the sessions that this group will get, and only this group, right? Let's through this button here, so you can add more users. And so the same way you add test takers to a group, you can add proctors. So you need obviously to search for the proctor. So the user has to be defined in the system before in the rostering part. So you have to search for him. And then the option is here at the top right of the user interface. is basically to select this option here, proctor. And then if you assign a user to a group with this role, proctor, when he will log in, then he will only see the sessions assigned to this group, and he will be able to proctor them, right? So to do all the things I have done today to invigilate a little bit the session. So this is how you declare a new proctor in the system. Right, so this was the proctoring capability. I hope I have covered a bit everything. So now I think we can maybe move on to the next topic, which is basically the scoring part, which will be covered by Dragos. So thank you, Dragos. I give you the floor now, basically. I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Patrick. A nice presentation there for the proctoring capabilities, and it's really exciting to see how this new functionality now sees the light in the open source version of TAO. One of the other functionalities that we were planning to showcase today is indeed the manual scoring functionality, which allows anyone using TAO CE to use manual scoring alongside the existing automatic scoring capabilities that we already had for a long time. So, of course, this is very relevant when we are dealing with open-ended questions like, I don't know, essays or some performance tasks or any kind of responses where you would need a human judgment in order to score those responses. And as we already hinted, TAO C now allows that possibility to manually score items, as well as to define how scoring should be done for every single item. If it's going to be automatically scored, manually scored, you can have any combination within a test. You can have a combination of some items that are automatically scored and some other items that are human scored. So in the next few minutes, like 20 minutes or so, I will walk you through how manual scoring can be configured at the item level, then how you can group multiple items in a test, including the manually scored items, what the back office users or like the test administrators or the scorers will see in TAO portal for those sessions that require manual scoring. Also what the test takers will see, so what various pupils or students will see both during the test and after the test, while the scoring is pending or after the scoring is done. And wrap up with showcasing the end results of the test once everything is done. So with that said, I will now share my screen with with TAO C. So I have here TAO C running on my screen. It's running on a Docker instance on my computer. At this point, I'm logged in as an administrator for now, so as a back office user that has plenty of permissions, basically all the permissions. And I will jump into various roles as we go along. Now, let's focus first on what an author will have to do in order to configure manual scoring. So for that, I will jump into the content bank. And once in the content bank, I will go to the items. And within the items, I already prepared ahead of time some items that are using manual scoring. I will showcase one of those items. For instance, this one, which is an essay. So I will go and author that item. You will see there is nothing fancy about it, or it doesn't say anything about the fact that it will be manually scored at this point, except maybe the fact that it's using an interaction, the extended text interaction, which is typically used for writing essays. So longer responses that are typically scored manually. And now how do you actually know that it will be manually scored is by moving to the response tab, which is going to be used for configuring the scoring for any item. So by moving to the response tab, what's relevant here is to see that there are on the right side, there are some what we call outcome declarations. Those are some variables which are used to store the scores for various traits. Those traits are like skills that are being measured or various dimensions that you want to use to score the test taker on. They can be something like, as I've been using here, like if they provided the right solution, is if they explain it well, if they were coherent or not, if they identify the problem properly. So depending on what you are measuring, you can define any number of outcome declarations, and each of them will be able to measure that outcome declaration through manual scoring. And let me show you how exactly that is done. I will take one of them here. So let's expand this one called identification. And you will see that it has a few fields. One of them is called interpretation. This is just like a description, a human readable name for this trait to better describe what this trait is about. Then you will see a field called long interpretation. This is typically used to link to an URL that has a file which acts as a rubric, like a description of how the scorer can score this particular item for this particular trait. I will show how that looks like in the demo later on for the scorer, but you just need to know at this point that all of those traits here, all of those outcome declarations have such a link here with a file that I hosted on Google Drive with that rubric. So it's basically guidance for the scorers on how to score this particular trait. And then the next field is the one that is really relevant for what we are talking about today, which is manual scoring or human scoring, because this one defines that this particular trait will be scored by a human. So that's why we picked human here. There is also the option of using an external machine if this will be sent to an external service, which will do the scoring for it. But for the sake of today's presentation, we will focus on human scoring that is built in into TAO. And then again, for each of the traits, you can define the range of values that can be provided by the scorer. So in this case, I went with a range from 0 to 3. So the scorer can pick any of those values, ideally based on the rubric, so based on the indications or the guidance provided here in the rubric. You can put any range as an author here, and then that range will be displayed to the scorer. So that's how you configure the manual scoring for the items. Now let me show you how the test will look like. Actually, there is nothing really special about a test that includes items that are manually scored. The test looks just the same as any other test. I will go through it just to showcase that. So you will see I have added all of those 4 items here into my test. And then what is relevant is that the test will need to have some kind of scoring mechanism. Again, that is not specific to manual scoring or automatic scoring. It's just representative for how the final score will be computed. In this case, I went with cut score. So what cut score means is that the score will be computed like a sum of all the individual scores for all the items. but also there is a threshold being defined. You see the threshold here, the cut score, which defines the threshold for which the test takers will pass or not pass that test. Again, this is not specific to manual scoring. It's just a nice thing to be able to configure that here. So now we have the test. Of course, you can configure also other types of scoring processing like total score. Then you won't have a cut score anymore, so you will not have a pass or not passed information. You will just have the total score. Or you can have a custom scoring where you will define your own scoring in the QTI in an XML format. You can add your own custom logic for that for more advanced topics. For now, let's keep it as it is with cut score. Okay, so with that said, let's get back to the portal. And I will show you a session that I already created. So you saw with in Patrick's demonstration how a session is created. I will not go through all of those steps. I already have a session here created, short manual scoring test. It is assigned to that test, published test that I was showing you earlier. And if I jump into that session, what you will see here is that there are 5 test takers who are assigned to this session. 3 of them already finished. They were also scored already, while there is a 4th one that finished the session but was not yet scored, and also a 5th one which didn't even started the session. So here is where we are. You see as an overview that there is one pending manual scoring to be done for this 4th test taker. You will see that they have a score button here available for the scorer. So that's how you know that one of those scorers that finish the session also requires manual scoring. And now just let's go through one of the tests that was finished. Maybe let's start with this 4th one that is not yet manually scored. And let's review their test. So remember, now I'm a test administrator. So I have all the permissions to do everything around the session administration. So I can review their test at this point. And what you can see now is that I have an information, a notification here telling me that some part or all of the questions in this session are not yet manually scored. They need to be manually scored, and they are not yet manually scored. That's why you see that there is a missing score here. We don't have a score yet for this test because the questions need to be manually scored. So that's for a test taker that was not yet scored. Let's see as a comparison for another test taker that finished the test. So in this case, you see that there are some indicators that the questions have been scored. In this case, the test taker got some partial score for each of the questions. That's what this symbol means. So for this first question, they got 4 points out of a maximum of 12 possible scores. For points, sorry. For the next one, they got 3 out of 12. Here they got 2 out of 4 and 4 out of 6. And unfortunately, this is not a this will not be a very happy test taker because based on the score that they got and the definition of the test and that cut score that was defined, you see that they failed to pass the test. So they only got 13 points out of 34. They needed at least 17 points in this case to pass the test. So yeah, that's a bummer for them. They will have to probably learn a bit better next time. And if we take a look at one of the other ones, maybe this is a more lucky or better prepared test taker. You see that there is a different score here. For the third question, they got all points, all 4 points. So hopefully, yes, they did better. So this test taker passed the test thanks to their score. Okay, so now that we have seen the current situation, let's switch the current user to an actual scorer. So I will log out as this user, and I will log in as a scorer. Hopefully, I still remember the password for this user. Yes. Okay, so now I'm going to enter the same session again. You will see that as a scorer, there are a few differences to what I can see. So I don't have the same permissions as a full test administrator or as an admin. I don't have the monitoring, the live monitoring capability that Patrick showcased a bit earlier. I lack those test review buttons here, so I cannot see the outcome of the test. What I can do instead is to score this test taker, and let's do that. So I'm clicking on the score button. Now I'm in the TAO Grader interface where I'm acting as a scorer. So I see what the test taker responded to my question. I see all the traits that I was mentioning earlier, so those outcome declarations. I also see the criteria, so these are those rubrics that I attached to each of those traits. If I click on one of them, what you will see is that in this case there is a PDF with a table that describes, how the scorer should score on those different traits in order to give 0 points or 1 point or 2 points or 3 points. So this is the help provided to the scorers in order to help them to properly score the test. And now let's give some scores here, some points. So let's say that we go with 2 on the argumentation. Let's say that on clarity and structure, we go with 2. With relevance, I'm not that happy, so I will give 1 point. And in this case, maybe they did provide an example, but it was not that great. So those are the points that I will provide. And now moving to the next question, I see as well the answer of the test taker here. Let's go with something random here. Now the next question here, you see that there is a different scale. This time it's 0 to 2, not to 3. So let's go with some manual grades there. And now you see what the scorer responded to a math question. And in this case, they actually provided a wrong solution. So they didn't fully got the question. Mathematical notation, let's say that we give 1 point, but the solution is definitely wrong. And now once everything is done, I can submit my scores as a test taker. And it will probably take a while for everything to be synced up, but at some point you will see that the test taker is fully scored and everything was done. And now I will switch again to a different user, this time exactly to that user that was scored. So demo 4, I think. And let's see their results. So this is the test that they took. I can see it in this finished sessions tab. I can see that the status is completed, so everything was done. It was submitted and scored. I can go, depending on how the session is configured, I can review that as a test taker. In some cases, I can configure it not to be available, the review button, but in this case, it is available. And now if I go here, I see that I got 6 points out of 12 for this question. 6 out of 12, 3 out of 4, and just 1 point out of 6 for this one. And you see how unfortunate in this case I missed just 1 point to pass the test. So I got 16 points out of 34. So yeah, that's what the test taker will be able to see if configured for this particular test. And I will also, I don't know if we still have time, Sam or Patrick, do we still have 1 or 2 minutes to go also through 2 minutes? Okay. So I will rush now into what a test taker will do to actually take a test that will be manually scored. Not that is anything very different in that, just to showcase that scenario as well. So you see that I have a test to take here in my sessions. I didn't start it yet. If I will start it, then I will be able to start writing my my answer, and I will just put something bogus there. I can already tell you I will not get too many points. Let's say that I will give a partial answer here. And for this mathematical expression, I will actually give the right answer and also show you how test taker can use this math entry PCI. So I can write the answer like this, submit. Okay, all done in this case. And now I will go to back to the session. Let's say that I'm going to the scorer again. Of course, I didn't put the right password. I don't remember the... Oh yeah, it was demo score, sorry. Okay, now I see that all the scorers have finished. I can score the last one as well. You see their answer. I will not give too many points here. Definitely nothing here. Maybe here some partial. And for this one, because they provided the right solution, I will give all points. And now with that, we have finalized the session. And if I log in as the administrator, I can see that all the test takers were scored. You see, everyone is scored, everyone finished the session. I can review the individual tests for everyone, and at the end, I can even export the results of this session as a CSV file. And in that CSV file, I will have all the responses for the test taker, the scores that were provided, the time that they spent, and so on. So yeah, that's how easy manual scoring can be done now in TAO C. And with that said, back to you, Sam and Patrick.
All right, so thank you very much, Draga. So we have 6 minutes left, so I would like to open the floor. I don't know, technically, Samantha maybe help me, but we can open the floor for any questions or comments or feedbacks. We'll be happy to hear from you. I saw a couple of small questions in the chat, but feel free to chime in.
Mhm. Yeah, it looks like we had answered some questions in the chat, but if there's anything else, please feel free to type those into there now or into the Q&A panel.
If there is no immediate question, I mean, one of the things I wanted to ask maybe to the audience here connected, and thank you very much for everyone to join this webinar. If there is any feedback in terms of webinar or topics you would like us to cover during this kind of webinar, or if there is any feedback in terms of format, I would be happy to get your those feedback. So you can reach out to me by email. So yeah, I will be happy to hear from you how best to drive this kind of information sessions to you. So or any topics you would like us to cover. I mean, we for this webinar we were wondering a little bit about what could be the most interesting things the community would like to hear from us. But obviously, if there is any spontaneous question there, maybe we can cover that for the next webinar. So feel free to reach out to me by email, and we'll try to bend a little bit the topic there for your questions. Yeah.
And if we don't have anything coming through, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, for taking the time to participate in this session. We'll follow up with the recording and perhaps a survey to see what kind of topics, as Patrick mentioned, you would want to hear from us next. So keep an eye out for that over the coming days. And again, thank you very much for joining us today.
All right. Thank you very much, Samantha, for organizing this webinar. Thank you very much, everyone. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah.